everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. My apologies. Starting the show a little bit later this morning. It was completely unavoidable. Matter of fact, there may be a few more times like Wednesday and Thursday in which the show is going to start probably closer to 8:30. I'll let you know. I'm not sure right now. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. This is the last honest place in Cincinnati media, if not the country. It's the Nathan Ivey Show. I'm Nathan Ivey, your humble host. Of course, brought to you by the good folks at CDM, amplifying Black voices in the greater Cincinnati area and beyond. On today's show, we got to talk about what's happening in Minnesota, family. Plus, we got a couple of guests scheduled. At 8:30 a.m., Charlie Winberg, who is the current Hamilton County Treasurer, he's going to reveal and talk about his 10-point plan for Hamilton County. And guess what, y'all? He's going to talk about it with us first. For anybody else in the Cincinnati media. So if you live in Hamilton County, you might want to pay attention to that. Then at 9 a.m., we're scheduled to speak with Gabe Davis. He's the new director of CCA, Cincinnati Citizens Complaint Authority. So it'll be interesting to get, I got a bunch of questions for both of these gentlemen, and I'm looking forward to it. So if you live in Hamilton County and you care about these kind of things, then make sure you stick around. And please like and share today's show. My cam is acting crazy right now, fam. So just give me a couple of minutes, and it might be like 30 minutes before I put the cam up. So we're going to rock this. It's going to be like a podcast here at the very beginning. Okay, my apologies on that. And at some point, I'll need to take a break so I can reconnect my camera. Things happen. You know, you can spend, let's just say things happen. We'll put it that way. Good morning to everybody. I hope that your weekend was great. Mine was absolutely excellent. It's great to be alive. I got it in every day. Got it in this morning. And by got it in, I'm talking about getting that body right. What's the motto, family? Strong body, strong mind. What's the motto? Strong body, strong mind. They feed one another. You cannot have a strong mind without a strong body. And if you've got a strong mind, then you should desire a strong body. They go hand in hand. So I got it in every day, feeling great, and got some family time in. Everybody is good in my world. I hope everybody is good in your world. How are you? Man, so many things have happened. What in the hell? Man, I got video. I got video for you, y'all. We got to talk about what's happened in Minnesota. 10 miles, just 10 miles away from where George Floyd was killed by police. You know, there's a big trial right now. The Derek Chauvin trial is going on right now. This happened in Minnesota. What's up with the Minnesota Police Department? Have you heard the latest? Have you heard the latest? Again, I've got video clips, man. This issue is so sad, family. Let's just jump straight into it. Man shot and killed by police in Minnesota, and now people are in the streets. Have you seen the videos? There have been protests in the Brooklyn Center after a deadly police shooting. And so what happened? Who was involved? Well, a young man, 20 years old, being reported as a black man, father, was shot and killed by police in Minnesota after a traffic stop. This happened on Sunday, just yesterday. He was pulled over by officers just before 2 p.m. And then we don't know what happened after that. There's mixed reports. Some are saying that he was pulled over because he had car air fresheners in his car. You know, how many people have like a air freshener like dangling from your rearview mirror? So think about something like that. Or maybe he had air fresheners like in the back window. Like in some states, counties, cities, municipalities, that's illegal, right? It's minor, but it's illegal. And we know that law enforcement has a history of using minor infractions to try to stop you, run your plates. Do you have warrants? Can we get the drug sniffing dogs out? We already know that. Is that what happened here? Some are saying that's exactly what happened here. During the traffic stop, Wright, that's Dante Wright, began to drive away and an officer opened fire. So if this is true, that's very troubling. He's driving away and the officer opens fire on him. The question will be why? He apparently was struck by at least one bullet. While inside the car, he drove another several blocks before he crashed. According to police, he was pronounced dead on the scene after officers and emergency responders were unable to resuscitate him. There's a lot of videos right now of his family members, including his mother, which is very difficult. This is going to be emotional for a lot of people out there, so just get ready for it. And his mother is saying that she was on the phone with him. Now, family, this is, to me, without having any other insights, to me, this is like the fear that a lot of parents have about their children, especially their male children, their sons. Because when you're melanated, and it doesn't matter how much melanin you have, in this society, in the minds of some people, you are looked upon as being hostile. You are looked upon as being threatened. That's why you have all these instances of like black while jogging, black while shopping, black while driving. And most recently, and this story came to me over the weekend, black while taking out the trash. I'll show you the video of that in a minute. Embarrassing. I think it's interesting. I've been making this point over and over again, fam. I think it's interesting that this is the response that we're getting, across the country. Like, all this stuff happened with George Floyd. There was so much emotional outpouring. All of the allies of melanated people came out. Everybody's upset. But police gonna be police. I don't see any different. Police gonna be police. And I think what I want people to take from this, and I think the most intelligent way to approach any of these cases, no matter where you might be in the country, is, and I want you to keep this in mind, fam, is that you got to be willing to be a change agent wherever you live. You got to be hip to the laws wherever you live. You got to be pushing for progress wherever you live. So you might live in Cleveland. You might live in Detroit. You might live in Cincinnati. You got to take what's happening nationally and ask yourself, what if that happened here? And if the answers you get back are negative, then you got to ask yourself what you're willing to do. There's been a national conversation about taking away qualified immunity. And I agree with those conversations in the sense that we need to end qualified immunity, because obviously there are police officers out there who are taking advantage of it. Because that's what adults do. You show me an adult behaving badly, and I'm going to show you somebody who thinks they can get away with it. 99.9% of adults do shit thinking they do shit, and the reason why they do it is because they think they can get away with it, or they know they can get away with it. Period. You might be on the job somewhere and you dealing with a rude customer service experience. Believe me, the reason why that person is doing that is because they think they can get away with it. And they might. Because generally speaking, when humans don't do shit like that, if they feel like they got something on the line. Now, if you're wondering, Nate, what's up with the cam? I can't see you. I know. Okay, I'll put my cam up here very, very shortly. Okay, right now, that's like the image of the cover of today's show. Again, if you're just coming in, 8:30 a.m., we're scheduled to speak with Charlie Winburn. He's a Hamilton County treasurer. He's going to talk about his 10-point plan for Hamilton County. At 9 a.m., we're going to call with Gabe Davis. He's the new director at CCA. We'll talk with him about what are his plans? What do we need to know? What does that mean? A lot of stuff, actually. So a lot of local stuff happening here, at least for the first hour or so of the show. But again, there's many things I want to discuss. Yeah, I need some. What's up with my folks? Yeah, what's up with my Spreaker family? What up, family? What's up, Spreaker folks? Good morning to everybody. I'm going to greet the choppers here in a second. So yeah, just give me another like 10, 12 minutes and I'll put up the cam. Okay. I know that is a very important part of the experience for the people that's coming for that. I get it. I don't know why you want to look at me. I don't get it. But it's just interesting to be able to look at somebody in the eyes, I think, is what it comes down to. All right, 513-873-7134. I say that number fast because I'm used to it now. Let me slow it up for the people that might be new. 513, that is the area code. 873-7134. family, that is my number if you want to share your thoughts this morning. Because I would love to hear your thoughts. I want to hear all about it. What do you think? You've been paying attention to what's been happening? What in the hell? People are in the streets of Minnesota. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not mad at them. That's what the streets are for, right? That's why they're there. I'm not mad. About 100 people were at the initial scene, and another 100 to 200 people later marched toward the Brooklyn Center Police Department. And I'll get a call coming in right now. We'll go straight to our caller here. Got an early call. Oh, familiar voice. Now, who do you think this is? Calling so early into the show. Hey, what's up, Cleopatra? Good morning, everybody. Now, who do you think this is? Good morning, good morning, good morning. We'll go straight to our early call. But I definitely want to talk about what's happening in Minnesota. I think the way I approach it is one of support, but also we want to glean and see what's happening. There might be some things that we can pick up that we can integrate here, and or there might be some things happening wherever you might live that they might be able to use in Minnesota. Do they have like a collaborative in Minnesota? If not, why not? At this point, living in Cincinnati, why doesn't every city in America have it? Would that make a difference? There's been a lot of conversation about ending qualified immunity. That conversation comes up every time somebody gets killed by police. I think they're right about that. You got officers out there doing dumb-ish, being reckless because they know it's not going to affect their household. It's not going to affect their pockets if they're not convicted. We got qualified immunity. That needs to end. Now, some people may not say it, but generally speaking, we can't trust law enforcement, quite honestly. We've learned that. Now, don't get me wrong, because I know how this game works. People want to run with your words and twist them. I stand by what I said, and I meant it. I'm doubling down on it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We are where we are. Doesn't mean we don't have some very good and virtuous people on the police forces across the country, because we do. We know that. We ain't talking about y'all. We talking about your brothers and your sisters in blue that's out here doing reckless-ish. Now, was this reckless? It appears to be. We don't know yet, which is always a sign that the police did something wrong. I'm generalizing here. I'm jumping to conclusions. I don't have no evidence. I fully admit that. But generally speaking, when the officers didn't do anything wrong, the evidence is like Niagara Falls. It just keeps on pouring. It just keeps on flowing. And when the officers may have did something wrong, it's like, you know what? We're waiting for the investigation. Let's wait. This man was on the phone with his mother. How many mothers, how many fathers, how many parents do we have in the audience this morning that have younger folk with children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren that are now of driving age? You know, it's a damn shame that, because my daughter's 15 and she's all about driving. Daddy, when we gonna go driving? This is what I hear all the time. Daddy, when we gonna go driving? Daddy, when we gonna go driving? And it's a damn shame that there's a part of me that does it, that's afraid, that has a little bit of fear that she'll be out driving and run into the wrong member of law enforcement. That's on some dumb-ish. That's on some do what I say now type shit, right? That's on some Judge Dredd. I am the law because I said so, you know. I just saw a video of a man who is currently a member of the military. I'm going to play it for you this morning. Have you seen this? He eventually stopped at what appeared to be a gas station. He got tasered. I'm sorry, he got he got pepper sprayed. Guns drawn on him. Why? Because they didn't see the license plates at first. See, some of these officers, man, are big guys with their badges and everything, but in their hearts, they're little men. And so it becomes less about the law and more about I told you so and you didn't obey what I said and you didn't move fast enough. That's a weak man. Real power don't power trip. A weak man get a badge and a gun, and now it's all about, oh, I told you so, and you didn't move fast enough, and I am the law. You know what I'm talking about. I speak the truth this morning. That's that weak man shit. A strong man don't have to do all of that. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Simple as that. And so you got some of these weak ass men, they get their little guns, they get their big guns, they get the big badge, got their communication devices, get your training, and they put you out there on the streets. Nobody knows you're a potential menace to society. You go, we got that movie wrong. In some cases, the real menaces are the cats with the badges. Now I know my polite Cincinnati friends are kind of chafing, like, oh boy, Nate, you go into rough territory. But it needs to be said, family. It needs to be said. That's what I see. I mean, I've seen videos of officers doing the dumbest shit you've ever could. And I'm like, what's the point of it? What's the point of all of this? I said, move now, do this, do that, barking orders. I'm like, dude, can't you go out here and get you some real criminals? Get out the car, get out the car. I said, get out the car. Like a weak man thinks that's a strong thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Petty police officers, some of them. Now, again, this is just my general impression and not necessarily specific to what's happened in Minnesota because I don't know anything, just like you don't know anything. I don't know what happened there. All I know is what we've learned so far. All I know is that the mother said that she was on the phone with her son, and now her son is dead. I've seen all these images of him with his beautiful little boy, beautiful little boy. He was a young father too, 20-year-old father. Looked like that's a young father. Look at him. Oh my God, sitting on his daddy's lap. And now he's dead. For what? I can tell you already what they're probably going to say. He was reaching for something, right? Yeah. They always say that. That's that good old fashioned standby. He's reaching for something. It's like, listen, yo, if you that scary, then you need to get another line of work. That's, you ever felt that way with some of these, excuses that you hear post-shooting? I was afraid. I was afraid. I'm sure you were. We should be afraid of you, B, not the other way around. But again, I'm sure the details will come out soon. This is 10 miles away from where George Floyd was killed. Does Minnesota have a problem? Yeah, I need some. Thank you. Does Minnesota have a problem? I don't know. I'm not in Minnesota. Wright was pulled over because of an air freshener in the rearview mirror of his mother's car. Again, that is. Thanks. Thank you, wifey. That is exactly the fear that a lot of parents have. A lot of parents have that fear that you're gonna get a call saying that some kind of traffic situation happened, and then your son or daughter is dead. And that's exactly what. And this mother was on the phone. She was on the phone with him. And the ish went down. Oh, let me play some video. This is let me play this for you. Now, if you just tuning in, like, what's up with the cam? I don't see anything. I know. We'll put the cam up just in a second here. I am aware. I am aware. Good morning to you. Good morning. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Please like and share today's show. Let me play. This is a little bit. This was taken from a civilian. Check this out. So there, that's a little bit Black Lives Matter. That could be, the sad thing about that family is that could be a scene from anywhere in the country where black people live. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? It's very, very sad, isn't it? We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Again, 513-873-7134. We do have an early call on the line. I want to go straight to it this morning, okay? Good morning, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Nathan Ivy and the good people of Cincinnati, as well as the good people around the world. And yes, those choppers. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir. Welcome.
Well, you kind of laid the platform out on the table this morning, and I'm sure people are going to be chatting and chiming in. And we saw the news. Before we get to this lieutenant in the Army that was pulled over, you made a statement about fear. And I hear it on TV and people some of us in the black community that would complain, oh, I feared for my, why, I wish we stopped saying that. If people pick up Dr. Claude Anderson's book, 100 and something ways why they hate you, pick up Dr. Claude Anderson's book and read that. And in one of the chapters, he tells you why this country hates you. He indicates, he asks the question and he gives the answer on 100 and something ways why we're in the condition, we as black people are in the condition today. And I'll say it really quick. He says it goes back to slavery. And he indicates that, for you to make statements like you fear them, no, they fear you. They want you to fear them. And so I wish we stop making those statements. Well, oh, I'm afraid, I get my, no, you should not say that. Your slave masters, you should not say you fear them. They want you to think you better fear them. They got the gun. So I wish we stop making idiotic statements like that you fear them. They fear you. So, okay, let's get to this, Lieutenant. Yeah, we saw it's all over the TV Saturday, Sunday. You know, he was smart enough to stay calm. He was smart enough. He wasn't racing down the streets. Let's get to it. He wasn't racing down the street. He was looking for an outlet, a place so it was well lit up. And if something goes down, he can see their body cams. And so the police could not do any trickery, which is what historically that's what they do anyway. They always come up with a game plan. And the cams are on, which was good. And the cameras in that gas station was on. He was smart enough to stay calm as much as possible. I didn't realize he had a dog in the back of the seat too. So how arrogant that police officer were, and they probably should have fired them both. And the captain of the police department fired the one guy that escalated the situation, and he should have took it down. Luckily, it didn't go in the wrong direction other than them spraying him, and that should have never happened. Number one, one of my questions to you, Mr. Nathan Ivy, what was the reason when he finally they got him to pull over? He never got out of the car. He had his hands out of the window. What was the problem? Why did you have your guns out? That's number one.
Right. It's a good question. I can't answer that.
He was smart enough. As soon as they pulled him over, probably before they even got out of the car, his hands were outside the window. So, and he had his camera in the car and the dash so he can film it and videotape it. Now, when he was calm and he's telling them, why you stopping me? Why you stop me? I didn't do nothing. And his license, this was a brand new car he just purchased, and he had the tag in the back window. If those dummies would have really looked and see, but they didn't care. They just saw smoke windows, possibly a black man in the car, and they decided to do, the lead cop decided to do what he wanted to do and be arrogant about it. But his hands was out, and then they sprayed him, pepper sprayed him, and then somebody's telling me they pepper sprayed the dog too. I don't mean to laugh, which was crazy, but this should never have went to that direction. They could have took it down, and maybe yes, he would have easily took the seatbelts off, got out of the car if they would have talked in a manner. But that lead cop was arrogant. He decided he was going to be judge, jury, and executioners. And if that brother would have, his voice tone, if he would have went into another direction, they probably would have shot him. So, everybody's outraged. And then across town, 20 miles or 8 miles down the street, this young man, as you indicated, he dies. That's going to be swept under the rug. Those cops will get away with that. You see that pattern. Why did he have to run? Why did he run? Okay, he might have had warrants, but where the hell you think you're going?
Well, wait. Who ran? You talking about the
young man that died?
He didn't run. They pulled him over. He pulled over because, and we don't know why. The speculation is because he had air fresheners in the car.
Yeah.
And then after he was shot, he tried to drive away.
Right. Oh, I thought it was a chase when they were following him and he decided to take off. So you're saying they shot him and then he went a couple of feet, crashed into the curb,
Correct.
And banged.
Correct.
And was it.
That is correct, to my knowledge.
So that pattern, which we've seen many times, those cops will get away with this because they'll.
You always say that, John.
Well, because they got the cams on. Unless somebody was filming that on the outside, and we don't know we don't hear the audio yet, and that's going to come out, and that's going to be swept under the rug. And I say why these are patterns, Mr. Nathan Ivy. This stuff goes all the way to Supreme Court. I told you a couple of years ago, this pattern of what the cops are doing goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And I'll repeat it again. The article I read before I left New Jersey to move to Florida, I read a Sunday newspaper and a block, small little block, came from the Supreme Court on the Sunday paper, way in the back. You had to look for it in the advertiser section. And it stated, and I never forget that tab, and it stated, we give the police the upper hand on all these cases. And I'm like, period, that's it. I'm like, what does that mean? So I did my digging. I'm a researcher. I dig, and I found out where that clipping came from, the Supreme Court. And they spelled it all out. In the police shootings with these cases, we will not convict, basically, without going through all the legal stuff that they had in there. They basically were saying, we will not convict a police officer. Now, if John from Princeton read that 10 or 15 years ago, you think the law enforcement didn't read that too? Yeah, they read it. And since then, police shooting had took off across the country. It was always that way since we came to the shores of this country 300 years ago. But that article, I noticed that these police shootings, they felt, once again, they are judge, jury, and execution.
John, I got to make a move. I got a guest coming in at 8:30, and I think they're calling right now. Thank you for your call, sir. I appreciate you.
Okay, I listened to. Hopefully, I can get some comments on you on that. I want to hear your response. Have a good day.
All right, brother. Take it easy. That's John from Princeton. As I said, we got the Hamilton County Treasurer scheduled to give us a call, and I hope I didn't hang up on him. Charlie, if you're listening, just give us a call back. I'll put you straight on. This is really important, because to Hamilton County, we got the Hamilton County Treasurer coming in. Today's a big day in the sense that you probably see him doing a lot of shows, doing a lot of media, but he's going to unveil his 10-point plan for Hamilton County, and he's going to talk with us first right here. Okay, so we're very privileged to have that conversation. And then, of course, at 9 a.m., we'll speak with Gabe Davis. He ran for Hamilton County prosecutor. Now he is the new director at the CCA, which all kind of ties into, what we're talking about in general with these instances, these examples, should I say, of black folks and cops. Let's keep it real. So let's get back into it. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me? Is this Charlie Winburn?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, how you doing, Charlie? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Are we live already?
We are live on the air, sir. Yes.
Yes. Well, Nathan Ivy, let me thank you very kindly for the opportunity to share with you this morning. And matter of fact, I think I'm going to cut my volume down because I'm looking at you while I'm talking. So let me just cut that down altogether. How's that? But you can't hear me, right?
Whatever works best for you.
That's good. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we hear you good. Yep.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Nathan, I really appreciate your show. I was speaking yesterday at our church, and I even recognized you and how of a good father you are, and I just really appreciate uh, that you don't. It doesn't really matter if you're talking to us when your boy come in, you get that boy attention. Just think if fathers could spend just that much time with their sons and daughters, what would happen? And also, if I could just say this morning, I was just listening. I just started tuning in when you were talking about the police situation. You know, I'm getting to the point now that if you are a school teacher or a cop, especially in those areas, that every cop and every school teacher, I may want to talk to the powers to be that they need to take what we call the adverse childhood experience questionnaire. And this questionnaire, Nate, is tied to adverse childhood issues. And this is all research based. And this was actually done on white folk. 90% of the study was done on wealthy white folk who had money. This was done by the Center for Disease Control, and it's a study that has been now used all over the world and in hospitals. And there are 10 questions that you have to answer. And now I teach if you have one or more of these adverse childhood experiences, you should get psychological and counseling. So I think adverse childhood experiences, I'm convinced that everybody in the world has a adverse childhood experience. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're black, white, or whatever. I'm saying if you go into law enforcement or you're going to be a school teacher or even a preacher or over church, you ought to take the assessment. And if you got one or more of these adverse childhood experiences before you're hired or employed, you should get counseling. And the studies show that when people are in fear, they're upset all the time, and they got issues around race and others, they have an adverse childhood experience which shows up in their adulthood. So I'm convinced that why people act out is that they got stuff in their background that never, ever got corrected. And so when they become police officers and school teachers and bishops and all that, they some of them begin to act out and hurt other people. So much for that. You didn't ask me for all of that.
No, I agree with you.
That's just some of them. Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. There's
sir.
a whole lot of adults out here
pleased.
dealing with stuff that really happened to them as a child. In fact, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's way more prevalent than people even know. And they take it into their relationships.
Yeah.
You know, and we can circle back around and spend a whole show just talking about that. And I'm down for it. But, of course, we want to talk about the 10-point plan.
And guess what I'll do, Nathan, because I support black businesses. I'll even pay for my time. I'll pay for you to hear me. Is that pretty good?
That sounds good to me. I'm down for that.
That's good. Hey, but I'm pleased to announce, and let me just cut this down so I won't. Now, let me just cut this down so I won't hear you. I can at least see you. But I'm pleased to announce on your show. Matter of fact, after later on today at 11 o'clock, I will be on, of course, the Lincoln Ware announcing this, and then the Cincinnati Enquirer and the Business Carrier later on today should be announcing it. But you are the first media outlet that I'm announcing today. Although I have a 10-point plan, but the number one entity of my plan today is I'm pleased to announce, as your Hamilton County Treasurer, I want to announce today my property tax payment plan initiative. And this is to assist homeowners, Nate, and commercial business owners by giving them an opportunity to clean up delinquent property tax obligations to avoid foreclosures and possible tax liens. Matter of fact, if I don't intervene as county treasurer, what'll happen, there are right now approximately 1,800 delinquent homeowners and 2,500 businesses or commercial business owners who right now can take advantage of my program. And without this, Nate, without this property tax payment plan, which I'm introducing today, possible foreclosures and tax lien sales could could accelerate in Hamilton County. I'm not going to let that happen. I want to give these homeowners who are behind in their property taxes and businesses, I want to give them an opportunity. However, any property owner that's listening to me right now on the Nathan Ivey Show in Hamilton County, if you are behind in your property taxes, you may qualify for my program. I want to help you. I want to say it again. I want to help you. When I got appointed to the Hamilton County Treasurer's Office, and I have put hours and hours in since I've been there. Can you believe, Nate? I almost been there 6 weeks. Can you believe that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I definitely hear it. Time is
okay.
flying. Time is flying.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Charlie, let's do this. Let's start from the top. Let's start at 1 and then quickly go through it. And then, of course, we want to talk about number 10 as well. And then maybe invite comments in and kind of get as many details as we can this morning.
As long as you hear me, because I'm so let's start at 1. Well, first of all, Nate, thank you. I put up my he put up yes. Yes, I'm still here. So let me know when you're ready for me to talk. Oh, okay. Yo, I think what it is I'm trying to operate my phone and watch you. So let me stop watching you, I'll say, and speak up and let me know if you hear me from time to time. Number one,
yeah, we hear you.
Part of my 10-point plan for fiscal accountability with the county treasurer's office, I want everybody to know that I am responsible to run an effective county budget commission. And right now on that budget commission, I'm the president. They made me the president. Dusty Rhodes is the secretary. Joe Dieters is a member and the prosecutor. What I want to do there, what we do on the budget, the county budget commission, we review all local governments, such as school districts, townships, zoos. And one of the things I want to make certain that their tax rates of taxation are sufficient to meet their expenditures, and we have something called retirement bonds. So in other words, as the president of the County Budget Commission, it is my job to make sure the city of Cincinnati, all townships, whether it's Lincoln Heights, Indian Hill, I want to ensure that these entities demonstrate that they have a structurally balanced budget. So I have a county budget commission tomorrow. Number 2, I'm responsible for to promote a objective board of revision. By the way, the Honorable Stephanie Dumas is the president of the board of revision, and Dusty Rhodes is auditor, and then I'm a member of the committee. What I want to make sure, Nate, is that to make sure that property owners are treated fairly and objectively in appealing higher or lower property taxes. And so that's very important. Anyone that feels that your taxes are too high or too low, you can come before the Board of Revision. Everyone needs to know it's not the county treasurer who increases your property values or your property rates. That is under Dusty Rhodes, our auditor. Number 3, which is really interesting, Nate, and just feel free to interrupt me at any time, is part of my agenda is to enhance the Hamilton County Land Utilization Corporation. And you say, what in the daylight is that? Actually, that's called the Land Bank. So I'm actually the president of the Land Bank, and we have the vice president, Joe Honalon. The 3 county commissioners are on there. And what I want to do there on the Land Bank, we have our first meeting in May. At least since I've been there, we will have it in May. I want to promote more affordable housing opportunities. I want to make sure that MBEs and women-owned business and investors have a greater opportunity to participate in the delinquent properties that are transferred to the Port Authority. And so that's one of the things. Number 4, I'm responsible for I want to run a physically sound investment advisory committee. I'm also the president of the advisory committee. and Stephanie Dumas is a commissioner. She's on my committee, and Denise Driehaus. And we have I have a responsibility as president for the next 5 months. I want to ensure, Nate, that the Hamilton County investment policies are followed to protect the $660 million. I have a responsibility to be over $660 million. That means after all bills are paid at the county level, I'm responsible for $660 million to make sure all of that money meets the criteria of safety, liquidity, and yield. So I'm responsible for investing the county's money. Also, staff development. One of the things I do want to do, that's number 5, is I want to, I'll be sometimes this week putting out a job assessment questionnaire to my staff on staff training and development, promoting equal opportunity, making sure that we have equity on my staff. So we're working toward it. Number 6, I want to implement it's already implemented. I want to ensure that our technology and information and cybersecurity monitoring is effective. So I'll be meeting with my director of technology and cybersecurity, hopefully this week, to evaluate to make sure that we don't have a breach of the county's money. And as you know, Nate, if you don't have a good cybersecurity system, those systems can be invaded. And if you look at what happened in the state of Ohio not long ago, you'll see there was a breach around unemployment data. Can you still hear me, Nate? Am I okay so far?
Yeah, sounding good.
Okay. Number 7 is the county treasurer report, a newsletter. To my knowledge, there's never been that we could find of in 230 years, a county treasurer report. I want to start putting out a report at least bi-monthly, and the Winburn report to better inform everyone on this show and all the citizens, inform and educate taxpayers on the purpose of the county treasurer's office and how to pay property taxes, and they can pay them payment options and delinquent payment plans that we're going to be talking about in item number 10. Number 9, we're also responsible. It's my job. I just presented to the Hamilton County Commissioners how much money in 1 month that we can deposit in certain banks. And that number could reach up to $150 million at one time. So the county commissioners must make a decision on which banks in Hamilton County will have the opportunity to invest our money. Right now, Fifth Third Bank is the major bank that is doing the majority of the county's active money. What I want to do, I have a responsibility after the Hamilton County Commissioners sent out all the notices to all the banks. It is my responsibility to examine all of the bank applications to make certain that the banks meet Ohio statute and criteria to actually become a depository for our money. Number 9, Nate, is one of my big things that I'm going to be pushing. I've already met with the Port Authority 3 times so far, and I've encouraged them affordable housing opportunities. The county treasurer has what we do is after some properties go through our tax lien and foreclosures, which I do not like to see anyone lose their home, whether business or property owner or commercial business. Many times people may not just be able to pay their taxes at all, and they may end up with a lien or foreclosure. And a lot of these properties go to the Port Authority. I want the Port Authority to really beef up affordable housing opportunities in Hamilton County. But on my own, I plan to conduct a comprehensive review of the county treasurer's delinquent real estate property myself. And before I leave, and I want to see how many of those properties that we already have that have liens and foreclosure on them, I want to see more of those go toward affordable housing in Hamilton County. And finally, Nate, and I really appreciate the opportunity for you to let me speak so long. But here's the granddaddy of them all. Right now, we have thousands of homeowners. Right now, thousands of businesses in Hamilton County. I mean, thousands of them. Who we're talking about that are really, really way behind in their property taxes, and their businesses are behind in their property taxes. And if I don't intervene, what will happen as county treasurer? And again, we cannot find any county treasurer that has done this. At least my staff says no one has ever reached out to thousands of business owners and thousands of homeowners and offer them an opportunity over time, over maybe some years, the opportunity to really clean up delinquent property taxes. So that initiative is being announced today, and I'm announcing it here first on social media with the Nathan Ivey Show. And if I may say, in conclusion on this, and then I'll stop and please ask me any question you would like. I want to say that I want to help property owners, Nate, who may be struggling, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. I want them to avoid foreclosures. This is my first important. If I do nothing else while I'm there for the next 5 months, nothing else, if I could help thousands of property owners, thousands of commercial business owners to avoid foreclosures and tax liens, I believe that I will have made an impact on helping people while I'm there. Now, if anybody, you can call my office right now. I mean, right now. And Nate, can I give out that phone number if someone is behind in their property taxes?
For sure.
I'll work out a plan with you. I'll work out a plan with you that you could afford and give you time to make certain that we help you save your home. I want to help you save your home. I want to say it again. I want to help you save your home. I want you to help save your business. Yesterday, Nate, when I was speaking at the church, and people can get my they can hear my video, renewcommunitychurch.org, renewcommunitychurch.org. And I was telling, especially those African American brothers and sisters that were listening to me today, there's two ways that you can create wealth overnight. I don't know if you heard, Nate, just about 3 weeks ago, they came out with the new net worth numbers for African Americans all over the country, and $5,000 was a net worth. But here's the quickest way to build your net worth. And I threw that out there. 2 quick ways that you could establish overnight a quick net worth and get on the track of really moving toward having more cash in the bank and et cetera, is number one is life insurance, whole life insurance, going out and buying a 25, 50, 100,000, 200,000 whole life insurance is the quickest way to build an estate. That right there moves you toward solvency in years. And then the second most important thing, if you did only 2 things, if those who's listening to me right now, as an African American, if you only did 2 things, bought I would say if you're young enough, I mean, even I just updated my insurance at 70 years old. I just bought an additional $125,000 policy. Now that's an addition to what I already had, because as I leave here, I want to be able to leave my family some wealth and make sure their net worth is in place. So the second thing, if you want just a quick way to do it, is real estate, is to own your own home. Or what you could do is own a 4-family apartment building and live in one for the next 20 years and let the 3 people in the apartment building pay you for your home, and you live rent free, and yet you've created an estate for yourself. So I threw that in, Nate, as a little nugget, if that will help. But here's the number to my office right now. I'd like you to get in before April the 30th. I really want you to get in right now before the lines get real busy. If you want me to work with you to give you a plan, to give you more time to pay, to get caught up on your real estate, because your real estate is going to help you with your net worth. You cannot afford to lose your real estate or lose your business or those multifamily apartments. We have a lot of small businesses here, Nate. Here's the number. My number is 946-4800. I want to repeat it. 946-4800. Again, 946-4800. If you call today, my staff will work with you and help you put together an agreement so you can save a part of your net worth, and so your life will be better. So, Nate,
Okay.
that is my presentation, and I just appreciate you giving me so much
most def.
time to talk about this.
Yeah, for sure. Anything for our community, anything about information, wealth building, I'm here for it. But I do have some questions. So I'm looking at the
Sure.
plan here. So what's different? What are you doing now differently than what was done before with the Hamilton County Treasurer's Office as it relates to property taxes? And what are the specifics? Because you said, here's the number, call me. Are you saying that you're willing to, on a case-by-case basis, work with people? Or do you have a new standard that you are announcing that you're going to put in place for all of the folks?
Well, yes. Here's the good thing. That's a great question. Here's the good to answer your question. Yes, what I've done, unlike what county treasurers have done, I have reached out. By the way, I didn't tell you this. We've sent out, or hopefully by today, 5,000 homeowners and commercial businesses will receive a letter from me. I forgot to tell you that. So these are people right now that need my help right now. So by case, individual by individual, they will be able to talk to one of my staff persons who will work with them to get an agreement in place to give them whatever time they need to catch up on their property tax. So that right there is different. Now, I will say this. What is really different, people, if they had known, there are some people that know that we do offer plans. There are some, but the 99% of the people who are property owners and who are business owners, they don't even know this at all. So just right there is a big difference within itself. And then the second big difference is I have a list of the names and addresses of every property owner, every homeowner, every business owner right now who stands to lose their property. And what I've done that is different from my other county treasurers, and not to knock them, is I've reached out to them and say, hey, I want to help you. And I think you had another question there.
I do. This is from Tracy. She writes, does he have money for taxpayers, or is he setting up payment arrangements is the question.
Yeah, well, in my case, because as county, I'm setting up payment arrangements. Now, on the money part, she raises a good part. Guess what I just did, Nate? Last week. Yeah, can you still hear me, Nate?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Nate, yeah, what it is, I'm hearing feedback, trying to listen to mine and listen to you. But here's the good thing. She mentioned what I have done. I met a week ago with President Dumas, and we had a great meeting. And what I'm trying to do right now, and I just shared briefly with Commissioner Reese, but I met with President Dumas of the Hamilton County Commission, and I asked her, will they consider setting aside $2 or $3 million for the people that I have identified, the almost 1,800 property owners who are behind in their taxes, property taxes, and the 2,500 businesses that are behind. I've asked President Dumas if they could if they would get a legal opinion to see if they could use some of the rescue money to help go down as a down payment toward the payment arrangements that I'm setting up. And here's what's really key, Nate, and I told President Dumas that she's beautiful, she loves the idea, she embraces the idea, and they won't know until 2 weeks if they could do this. But what I told President Dumas is that I've got to move right away, because if I don't move right away on helping these 1,800 property owners or commercial business owners, they could lose their homes. They can end up getting tax liens or move toward foreclosure. So what I'm trying to do is slow that down, bring an end to that, and pray that people will let me work with them. And in the meantime, if President Dumas and the county commissioners can allocate $2 or $3 million toward this effort, it will be great. So that's a good question. And I wanted that person to know, hey, I've already taken steps to try to get the money, but the rescue money won't be here, they tell me, until the end of April. But I'm going to extend. Oh, by the way, anyone, Nate, that is not in my 1,800 right now, property owners who are in real trouble. I'm talking about real trouble. And my 2,500 commercial businesses who are in real trouble. Anybody else that is behind, say they only one payment or two payment behind, I will even help them too. So if they call my office today, Nate, at 946-4800, that's 946-4800, it will start the process. So step one is let me get you into a pay arrangement to help you save your property. In the meantime, hey, I just pray that the county commissioners will find a legal way. And what I'm hearing, Nate, and which I do not like, and I told President Dumas, maybe we should get a waiver. The rescue money, they're saying, can't go toward property taxes. I'm saying that's crazy. And let me tell you why. Because the rescue money, I guess that's the title of it, the rescue money can go and pay a mortgage. And if some people pay their mortgage through a bank and they take out through their escrow property taxes, Nate, does that make sense? They take out property taxes. So I'm saying that if the rescue money can pay for a mortgage, they ought to be able to pay for property taxes. So I pray that all that can work out. So what we would have is the county treasurer putting payment plans together, and the county commissioners cannot do that. So they need the county treasurer to do it. Now I would like to get the money to help really advance that.
Yeah, Sister Iris writes, this is how Black people lose their properties, being behind in taxes and that damn port, as in the Port Authority.
I appreciate Iris. Iris is right. Well, first of all, I want to say again, the first step, and I really appreciate what Iris said. The first step, people right now, if you are behind in your property taxes, you want to call me. You want to call me, because if you lose your property, you are losing your net worth. You are diminishing and diluting your state. That's the first step. And the second step is I will be getting back with President Dumas. I had just a brief conversation with the Honorable County Commissioner Alicia Reese I believe it was on Friday, and she's definitely open to something like this, but I can't speak for her. I did meet with the Honorable President, Madam Dumas, and she has definitely committed to wanting to make this happen. So Iris is right. Because let's assume right now, let's make an assumption, Nate. Nate, if I did nothing, never got on here, never reached out to these thousands of people, guess what will happen? Quietly, these people will end up getting tax liens, and they'll end up having foreclosures.
Well, Charlie, listen, I appreciate you coming on with us first and giving us this information. I got another guest lined up, so I'm a little bit between a rock and a hard place in terms of guests anyway.
Well, thank you.
But I appreciate you. Where can people go to see or download the plan for themselves?
Okay. Well, first of all, the 10-point plan is just my major plan. I just happened to give that to you, and I gave it to Lincoln Ware, and I gave it to the Enquirer and the Business Carrier. This plan, if you see the word draft on there, we're not finished with it. We're going to try to put it on our website soon.
Okay.
But right now, if people want to get me, and I'll just be quick, call me now, 946-4800. If you want a plan, 946-4800. That's 946-4800. Let me save your house first. Let me save your business. And then let's see if we can get some money from the county commissioners to even add to your plan. Thank you, Nate. You've been more than gracious with your time.
All right. Thank you so much. That's
Thank you.
Charlie Winburn, everybody.
Thank you.
Current Hamilton County treasurer. And we got Gabe Davis, who's the current director of the CCA. And Gabe, if you're watching, please give us a call back, because he had called us a couple times. Maybe you heard that beeping sound. That was the other line. Someone calling on it. So we'll talk with him, and we'll talk with Gabe and get a sense of his direction for CCA. And I do know that Iris and her team spoke with him on Friday, and they've been a part of this conversation. So if you really want to get really, really in depth on a regular basis, make sure you check out her live streams. She's doing great work educating our community. But I've been wanting to talk with Gabe ever since, it was reported that he was going to be the new director. So here's our opportunity this morning. Hold on, I might try to call him back. Hold on one second here. Y'all down with that? I think so. Let me give him a call, because he gave us a call a couple times. I think this is good. Good morning, Nathan Ivy Show.
Good morning, Nathan. This is Gabe Davis. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gabe. Thank you for your patience, brother. I know you had tried to call in a couple times. I was just finishing up with Charlie Winburn.
Worries. Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm absolutely just thrilled to be able to join the important discussions that are facing us.
Yeah, most def, man. First, how are you and the family?
Everyone's doing well. My daughter's she turned 3 about 2 months ago, and she's enjoying preschool, just being back there with her friends and teachers, and so she's doing well. Wife's doing well. She's doing child therapy for the children's home, and is keeping busy these days with all the work just from COVID. But folks are doing well.
That sounds great. 3 years old, man. That's a beautiful age. Kids are so sweet at that age.
It is.
It's a very beautiful age.
I will say that absolutely they are absolutely adorable, but they are a ton of work. We're just kind of going through that potty training phase right now, and I think we've mostly gotten it down, but it was definitely tough getting here.
Right. Man, it's amazing. Like when you're in it, you're in it, right? But when it's over, you look back like, man, the time just flew by.
Yes, absolutely, no question. You blink, and then a year passes, 6 months passes, and next thing you know, they're heading off to high school. But we got a little bit of time to go there.
So let's catch up. We haven't spoken since it was the primary for Hamilton County prosecutor, right? For the Democratic nomination. Of course, that went to Fanon Rucker.
That's right.
And then I'm not sure what the time frame was. So take us back a little bit, Gabe. So it's right after the election. I'm just trying to figure out, how did you go from that election to being the director for CCA? Was that a goal of yours? Were you made aware of the opportunity? Were you thinking like, well, after, my shot at public office, I want to do something that's community related? What was that thought process there?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk about it. So, the election came to a close in April of last year after the primary. We had our primary date extended a bit there because of COVID-19. And it's, I'm sure folks will tell you who have lost an election that it's never a great experience to go through that. So definitely you have to take some time to regroup and kind of figure out what's next for you and for your family. And that certainly is what I did. But I had no expectation, frankly, of getting back into public service as quickly as I did. At that point in time, I was mostly focused on spending some time with my family. Hadn't really spent enough time with them over the past, year and a half of just running for office. And, I was mostly focused on those kinds of things and just figuring out what was going to be next for me for the long term. But, really for me, what it was seeing what happened with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, just going through that summer in the midst of COVID-19, and just feeling that sense of just frustration, and the sense that I wanted to do more and get back in the game, so to speak, to address issues that were important to me, issues relating to civil rights, to accountability, to fairness and equity in law enforcement. And, when George Floyd happened, that was just a spark that said, okay, I have to do something to get back in the game here. And then I really just saw the opportunity to be director of CCA through the paper. I saw that there was an opening. It was published that they were looking for somebody to lead up that agency and to help do critical oversight and to ensure collaborative accountability with the police department here in Cincinnati. And I just stepped forward and said, hey, I think this would be something that I would be ideally situated for, given my background. I've been a federal prosecutor in the Civil Rights Division, prosecuting cases involving police misconduct and investigating officers for wrongdoing. But I also grew up in a law enforcement family. My dad was a Cincinnati police officer and a sergeant, and a black officer here in Cincinnati. So certainly had that perspective of having both of those sets of lived experiences, and I thought that would make me ideally situated for what we had to do at this point in time, and the critical need for someone to come in who had a real passion for moving forward and for seeing what we could do to make critical changes, but also to give people some more confidence in our system generally. So I jumped back in it and was blessed to get the opportunity and work with talented staff and with great stakeholders and partners across the city.
Well, let me ask a quick question just to jump back, and then I want to primarily talk about your work with CCA. But just a question I had, I was wondering, I wonder what Gabe thinks in terms of the final result of the Hamilton County prosecutor's race. We both know that Fanon Rucker lost. And then as you pick the bones of it, there were, Democrats who were unaware of him or felt some kind of way about his record. Just be honest with me, Gabe, do you think that you would have did better or had a better shot at beating Joe Dieters?
Well, I'm not really in the prediction business, and I'm certainly not a fortune teller. So I don't know that I can say, who would have done better, who would have done worse. I think at the end of the day, you go out and you bring your message and you do your best to connect with the voters. And I think I certainly would have done a good job of that and ran a passionate, spirited campaign, and certainly was a supporter of Judge Ruckers when he beat me after the primary, and would have been thrilled to see him as prosecutor here. And campaigns are tough business. So at the end of the day, you put your heart into it and you just see where you land. And that certainly is what I tried to do.
Yeah. It was a question I had. It was in my head. So let's talk about CCA. And my approach with this is, and I know that you were recently on with Iris and her team, and I know you're probably in a lot of communication with her on a regular basis with the community. I think that's great. And in your conversations with her and her team, I know you guys go into a lot of details, and I think she's a perfect person to lead those kind of conversations. So for me, my approach is I just want to make sure that my audience understands the broad strokes of CCA. So for folks who are like, what is CCA? Can you give us what is the function of CCA?
Absolutely. So CCA stands for the Citizen Complaint Authority. And so, those words are very important. Citizen, we are here to hear citizen issues, citizen complaints. And that's that second word in CCA. And then the authority is we have some resources and some power to conduct independent investigations into those complaints. And so that really is what we do. Our mission is to conduct independent, impartial investigations into allegations of police misconduct, but also into serious police interventions. So when I say serious police interventions, I'm talking about primarily things like police shootings, cases where people have died in police officer custody. We investigate all those things automatically, in addition to investigating citizen complaints that are brought to us from people throughout the Cincinnati community. And that really is what we've done for our nearly 20 years of existence here. We were created as a result of the uprisings and the real thirst for movement and for accountability stemming from the shootings of unarmed black men in Cincinnati in the early 2000s, culminating with Timothy Thomas's death, and then a series of lawsuits that were filed by Cincinnati Black United Front, ACLU, and other groups, and really led to this moment where the city came together to really push for greater accountability, for community problem-oriented policing, and for the creation of CCA. And as a result of that, we were birthed into existence, and we had been doing our thing, so to speak, for almost 20 years. People don't often know that we exist. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm happy to talk with you to let people know that there's a local government agency here that will do a comprehensive, full investigation into your issues that pertain to policing. So if you think you were not treated fairly or not treated appropriately, there are resources that are available to look into that issue for you. And we don't promise or guarantee any results, but we do a full, thorough investigation, and we publish those findings And if we can't if we can't speak to what happened in a way that ultimately pursues some sort of accountability, because we find that there was no violation of policy, we can also make recommendations with respect to policy changes where that's appropriate. So we have a number of tools to really support folks here throughout our community as it pertains to issues of law enforcement.
Okay. So what are those tools? Can you give us some details about the tools that you use?
Yeah, so our primary tool is to do our investigation, and we have a staff of 5 investigators that I manage and oversee, and 2 support staff. And we will, if you bring your complaint to us, we have the ability to bring down the officers who are accused of mistreating you, and we do interviews with the officers to have them tell us what happened. We get the body-worn camera footage, all that evidence. We get other police paperwork pertaining to the issue, to the interaction. And we also interview witnesses who may have seen what happened between the citizen and the police officer. We interview the citizen, his or herself, to get their perspective on what happened. And then we make a determination and issue findings that go to our board. And that kind of truth-seeking and putting the truth out there and publishing that information, shining a spotlight on what's happening, is a very critical and important tool. We can also make recommendations for corrective action. We can recommend that officers, as a result of some misconduct, if we find that, we can recommend that officers be trained, that they be reprimanded. We can even recommend things as high as suspension and other things as well. Now, keep in mind, we can't impose those things. That lies with the discretion of the police chief and the city manager. Ultimately, they have the final authority, but we can recommend discipline where that's appropriate. We can also issue policy recommendations, so we can ask that the department implement changes to its policies, for instance, surrounding mental health or surrounding the use of body-worn cameras or the use of tasers. We've done that in the past. And we also publish on an annual basis, and may look to publish it more frequently than on an annual basis in the future, but at least right now we publish annually a set of data that really looks at the trends and patterns that are giving rise to some of these complaints in our community. And the goal there is to really identify some of these trends to ultimately prevent complaints from happening. But first, we have to identify and begin to diagnose the issue, with a little bit more precision, so we can hopefully begin to turn the page on some larger issues. So we also do that. And then we do general community engagement, and we're seeking to ramp that up as well in 2021 here. But our goal is not only to just tell you what we offer and talk about our resources and get that information out. Our goal is also to have our ear to the ground and to provide a forum and a space for you to come in, for you to bring your concerns to us, even if it's not a direct complaint. If you have an issue in general with how you think you're being treated, with policing your neighborhood, your community, we want to provide a space for you to discuss that with us, and for us to be able to bring that feedback back to the administration, back to the police department, in those discussions that take place, so that ultimately citizens' perspectives are being heard. And so those are some of the things that we have, some of the tools we have to really serve folks here. And like I said, this is a local government agency. We're here to serve the folks here in this community. So we want people to know that we exist.
Just one point of clarification. Sister Iris is saying, no, Gabe, we were in federal court in March before the death of Timothy Thomas and the uprising. CCA had already been written, which is correct to my knowledge. And I think it's important just to make sure we set that record straight. I'm sure you're aware of that. So maybe it was a slip of the tongue. And
yes, that's right. I mean,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely will defer to folks like Iris on a precise timeline. I think in general, I think I need to convey that these things are happening around the same time. But certainly I understand that the lawsuits were filed first.
Yeah, I think it's important because it shows that there were issues before the death of Timothy Thomas, and that there was also an articulate response from community members. I think that's really important. I'm not saying I'm prepared to give you a whole thesis on it right now, but I think that's important as we think about how these things started, that there were multiple issues even before the death of Timothy Thomas that people were crafting articulate responses for. So CCA, you said 5 investigators. Now so tell me, can you give us like a profile of the investigators working with you? Are these former police officers? Are these people that have law enforcement background? Are these private investigators? Well, what's the profile of these investigators?
Yeah, so all 5 of the folks that we have are experienced investigators and had experience in those realms before they started here. We have folks that have done work with Jobs and Family Services here in Hamilton County, investigating cases there. We had folks that had done work with probation as probation officers, and obviously during that that type of work, you have to do a lot of, you're doing interviews and questioning and checking in and having to do monitoring. And so that's good training. And also have some law enforcement background just through that experience. We also have our newest investigators. One of them was a former detective for the New York City Police Department there doing narcotics cases primarily, but certainly during the course of that, he did a lot of investigations work and was former law enforcement. We also have someone who was in a U.S. intelligence community counterintelligence investigator, so she helped to do work protecting our community from those kinds of intelligence threats working from the D.C. area. And we have a former Cleveland prosecutor as well who came to us from that line of work. So we have a nice broad base of folks who have experience in law enforcement, prosecutors, police officers, intelligence officers, but also folks who have done other types of work as well that makes them well-rounded and well-suited to really dive into the issues that we address here and be able to connect with both the citizens who are being interviewed and whose complaints are being raised, but also the officers who we have to ultimately interview and get information from.
So as the director of CCA, I'm curious about, do you have face-to-face meetings with either the police chief or reps from the Cincinnati Police Department on a regular basis?
Yeah, so we have, because CCA it is, we carry out independent investigations here, and we jealously guard our independence in that sense. But we are a city department also, as a matter of our structure. And so during the course of those things, we regularly meet with the police department, and we also have internal discussions about police policies, about CCA recommendations that take place. Because at the end of the day, once we issue our reports, our findings have to go up from our board to the city manager, and the city manager has to make the final say whether to approve or disapprove of our findings and our recommendations. And so during the course of presenting our work to the city manager, we also do have discussions as well with the police department about what our recommendations and our findings are. And even before we get to that point in time, a large portion of our evidence comes from the police department, because we need to have their arrest paperwork. We need to have their use of force forms, all the various forms, and all the various body-worn camera recordings as well come from the police. So we have to make contact with them in order to get that information. And those obviously have to take place just through regular discussions in order to get that kind of material. So we have close contact with the police for sure.
Okay, that's interesting. So tell us the process. So let's say I'm a citizen of Cincinnati. I have an interaction with the police. I feel like I was done wrong. Okay, so I want to lodge a complaint. That's what it's called with the CCA? What's the process? Do I go to a police station? Do I go to the city's website? What's the front door to start that process?
Yeah. So what you can do is you can call our phone number and lodge it that way, and you'll be able to talk immediately with someone at the front desk there who will connect you with our investigators to follow up. And that number we have is 513-352-1600. That's a 513-352-1600. So you can file that way. We also have a social media presence, so you're welcome to go onto our page, and it may be unusual. You certainly can file just through making a comment to say, hey, I have an issue. I want someone to contact me about this. And so that's one way to do it. You also can come in person at our office. We're located at 805 Central Avenue. That's Suite 222. And although right now we are currently not accepting in-person complaints due to COVID-19, I expect in the coming weeks here, perhaps as early as May 1st, although that's not set in stone. But in the coming weeks and months, you'll be able to come in and refile those complaints in person. And then you can also do it through our website. So that's www.cincinnati-oh.gov/CCIA. And then you can file your complaint online through a form there as well. So there are a variety of ways to file complaints with us. And essentially, you have to just be prepared to tell us what happened to you. You don't have to even give us your name if you don't want to. You can file complaints anonymously. People are permitted to do that. Or you can tell us, hey, here's my name, but I don't want you to put that in your materials. And we also take complaints that way as well. So, there are a variety of ways to get information to us. The critical thing is that we just understand what happened, that we understand all the specific information you can give us about it. And if you have any information yourself, if you have any recordings that you took with your camera, if you have any witnesses who were present with you that observed something, that you make that information known to us and that you make those folks available to us so we can use that in the course of our investigation.
That's interesting. I didn't know you could file anonymously, but it makes sense though. It makes sense. I appreciate that. So
Absolutely.
my question is, there was an article that came out, I think it was sometime last year, and it was talking about some of the challenges or difficulties, however you want to look at it, with CCA in terms of dealing with the Cincinnati Police Department. And just using my recall, as I remember, essentially the way it was written, it was like, CCA had made a bunch of recommendations, but a lot of them had been either ignored or there had been no response from the police department. Is that true?
So I know there was an article that came out, I believe it was in the Inquirer pertaining to this. I think that's what you're referencing. And that came out right before I started. And one of the first things that I wanted to do was to understand what was happening with the recommendations when I came on back in September. And there'll be a lot coming out about this. Is a report that the city manager will issue to city council that goes into some of this, and part of the report has already come out. But I don't think it's accurate to say that the recommendations were ignored. I think that there were responses that were given. I think that some of the information, at times when you're trying to convey things, the communication may not always be as smooth as it could be. But it's not accurate to say that they were ignored. And obviously, I don't think that all sides are going to see or going to agree on everything. But I think for the most part, we at least agree in principle on what the recommendations are trying to do. And I think that has been reflected in the responses that I've seen. And where there's disagreement around some key recommendations, I think there is an effort to at least gain some mutual understanding and for CCA to be able to present its perspective to the city and the city manager to, for her to make a final decision on recommendations that are still outstanding. So I think those discussions have taken place. They are taking place. We are in the process now of fine tuning the communications process so that it flows a little bit better, and ultimately people will be able to see with a little bit more transparency what the recommendations are, what the responses have been as those things are coming out. So we are improving those things internally. And I think we'll have a lot more to say about that in the coming weeks. But I think people should take heart and should be encouraged that folks are, from my perspective, operating in good faith here. And like I said, we won't agree on everything, and we don't agree on everything. But I don't think that CCA is being ignored. I think it really is just we're working through a process here, and ultimately it'll serve the city once we're through it.
Okay. I'll speak with Gabe Davis, everybody. He's the director of CCA. So is CCA currently 100% funded? Like, I think the CCA plays a critical role in what we're dealing in terms of our community and relating with the police. I think not having it in place, and that's why a lot of smart people in the community wanted it, was a real problem, because people feel like they have these issues. There's nowhere for it to be taken seriously. So my question is CCA 100% funded? Do you have the funding that you need to do the job that you're in charge to do?
Well, that's a complicated question. We certainly have the funding that we need to guarantee us right now the 5 investigators that are required as a matter of the law, but that also are minimally needed in order for us to essentially to keep our heads above water. So, people are not unaware of this, but the law that gave rise to us, that our enabling statute, Article 28, said that we need to have 5 investigators at a minimum. For almost 10 years, we've not had 5 investigators. We've had 3 investigators. We've had at points 2 investigators. We have not had the full 5 for a very, very long time. And so recently, this past summer, back in 2020, the city increased our funding to give us that money to hire the 5. And I definitely want to give thanks to folks in the community for pushing for that, our stakeholders out there, as well as thanks to folks in the administration, the city manager, the mayor, and the ultimate city council for funding it. So we have what we need for those 5 investigators, but it's not quite enough for us to be able to really address the issues that we need to address. And so we have asked for more for the next fiscal year, because I have a responsibility as a director to ensure that we have the resources that we need in order to meet our mission. And so what we have currently is better than what we were. It's an improvement, but it's not quite enough. And we have a huge case backlog of over 130 cases, approximately. I think maybe it's around 140 or so that are older than 90 days, and we're supposed to resolve our cases within 90 days. So we have a huge backlog of cases that we are chipping away with the help of the new investigators that we hired. But it's not enough for us to be able to move through that backlog as quickly as we need to. So we need more funding for new investigators, but we also have other things we're supposed to be doing at a higher level. I mentioned earlier that we do annual reports to look at patterns and to analyze that. And that is very true, but there are ways for us to look at that data with a little bit more intensity of focus and to be able to parse it a little bit better to provide a better product that looks at recommendations that are a lot more sourced in that particular data and that are going to more accurately diagnose and treat, so to speak, the issues that are causing the complaints. But we can't do that deep dive without having a staff member who can do that, who's trained to do that work, and whose job is to do that pattern and data analysis. Right now, we don't have that staff member. We don't have staff to be able to do that. We also should be doing mediation and restorative justice work as a part of our mission. We're supposed to be using a restorative justice lens, which takes a certain segment of our complaints, and instead of investigating them using a more traditional model, we're supposed to involve a neutral party to work as a mediator, so to speak, and helping to really facilitate some dialogue between the officer and the citizen who are involved in the dispute. So the CPD has a process for that, but it's a process that we hope to help them to strengthen. But in order to even begin to do that, let alone to have a more robust mediation model for what we do, we need, again, resources to be able to do that work. We can't do it currently. And the community engagement piece as well. We can do some of that work. We have done some presentations opportunity. We like to do presentations in all 52 neighborhoods of Cincinnati. We'd like to be able to go back into the schools and be much more involved in the schools than we have been in the past and do other community forms of engagement. But we need staff, again, whose job it is to do that. And right now, between our investigators and our support staff in the office who are helping to keep things afloat, we don't have what we need in order to function at our highest capacity. And so we've asked for more funding. I hope that we get some of that additional support. And I think if we do, we'll be able to function certainly at the level that we were intended to.
Right. So 2 questions. So what is that number? So what is the level of funding? And I ask so that we, the members of the community, can go to our representatives with the right information and we know what to ask for. So what is that dollar amount? And then how many investigators do you think that CCA needs in order to absolutely accomplish the goals that you have in mind? And again, I ask for the same reason, so that as members of the community, we have these numbers, these facts coming from you, so we can now use that to hold our elected officials accountable and decide who we want to represent us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are great questions. So, we presented, and it gets complicated whenever we talk about the municipal budget. But the bottom line is that we are asking on top of our of the budget that we present, that's sort of our base budget that allows us to operate where we are right now. We're asking in addition to that for $480,000 approximately. So almost $500,000 if you want to kind of round up is what we're asking for. That's the money that we need in order to hire the additional investigators, the additional support staff members that accounts for salary, for benefits, and for all those things, to be able to bring those additional folks on to help us to do this work and to operate at a higher level. And the number of investigators that we need, and I mentioned, the 5 that we got, which we're very thrilled and grateful to have. We're asking for 3 additional investigators, so that would bring us up to a total of 8 investigators. And at that point, we would have one of those 8, who is currently our chief investigator. We would have her just being a chief to help manage the cases, to help ultimately manage the vetting that takes place at the end of the day. Once the investigations are completed, so we'd have the 7 of the 8 just doing investigations work solely, but we need that 8 as a base in order to ensure that we can do what we need to here with these cases. And I expect too that cases are likely to grow as we get out in the community and people hear more about what we do and what we offer, and also as more people focus their attention on these issues. We're definitely going to need those 8 investigators to help us to even just be able to maintain where we are. So That's the number of investigators that I think right now is supported. And we're not just pulling these out of thin air. We also did an internal look to see how many cases we had been completing over the past several years and projected out to see what we needed in order to be able to resolve that backlog in a reasonable fashion. And so the number we arrived at was 3 additional. So that brings us up to 8 investigators total, with about $500,000 more in terms of budgetary support.
Right, and that's annual. That's not like a one-time bump. That's $500,000 annually you're looking for.
Correct.
Okay, that makes
That's
sense.
correct.
Okay, what are your goals? What are the major goals that in your vision for CCA? What is it that you want to accomplish?
And so I think first and foremost, we have to be what I've called the gold standard for this police accountability work and for this civilian oversight work that we do. When we were founded, we were one of the first to have this function of doing work to investigate allegations of police misconduct. And we were set up in a very unique fashion to do that with a dedicated team of individuals to actually investigate cases. So we don't just monitor what the police have done, what the police's internal investigation section has done. We actually do our own independent investigation. We have to maintain that, but we need to be the gold standard for that. So that's part of my request for the additional funding, is to make sure we have the manpower that we need in order to produce work product at a high level, but also to do the investigations at a high level and give every case the thorough look that it deserves. And so that's first and foremost, because if we can't arrive at the truth through a fair but rigorous process, then we might as well not even exist. So we have to do the investigations piece and do it at a level of excellence. So that's number one. But we also have to be willing and able to peel back the layers a bit and to prevent complaints from being filed by looking at what the information is telling us. And right now we produce recommendations, but like I said, that those are largely based on the cases that we're seeing, and it's based on the data that we're seeing, but it's not based on that deeper dive. What we need is to be able to do recommendations that really are sourced in the trends that we are seeing across districts, but also across years and across time here in the city, and to be able to really analyze that in a way that gives us a meaningful set of conclusions that we can draw. And so that has to be the second piece, is that we can't prevent anything unless we can understand the information appropriately and analyze it appropriately. And then I think we have to do the community engagement, because if people don't know we exist, if people don't know other things as well, like if people don't know what their rights are, they don't know what police policies are, then people become frustrated because they don't understand why the police are doing what they're doing. And maybe that the police have a certain policy or training that allows them to do that, but people aren't aware of that. Or maybe that the police officers are behaving in a certain way, and people don't know that they have the right, to be treated differently because their rights guarantee a different type of treatment. And maybe that search that you thought was okay really was a problematic search, but you didn't know that. So we ought to be, in addition to doing prevention work and doing our investigations work, we ought to be educating the community as well about police policies, about police procedures, and also about what their rights are, in addition to collecting information and hearing from them as to what their concerns are. I think those things are going to position us well to really address the issues that we need to confront as it pertains to accountability and transparency and enforcement of law.
Speaking with Gabe Davis, he's the director of CCA. Gabe, I appreciate your time. I do have a few more questions. One question, and it's just coming up in the conversation, is you said you have cases that are sort of outstanding over 90 days, correct? What's the longest time frame for the case? Like, is there somebody out there with a case that they've been trying to deal with for a year, 2 years?
Well, I will tell you, we just we issued last week actually a comprehensive report on shootings that we looked at here, where essentially we closed or completed investigations into a number of shootings. And the oldest shooting that we had a couple actually were from back in 2018. So, that just kind of gives you some sense. We're now in 2021, but we had cases that we had just completed that were essentially either initiated or filed in 2018. Now, I don't believe we currently have any more in 2018. I think we finished out our 2018 cases last week, essentially. So I think now we're at least dealing with everything from 2019 and forward. And we are also closing cases that occurred in 2020. So we're not just doing 2019 cases and older cases. But that just gives you some perspective that we do have a number of cases that were filed in 2019. So in some cases, people are having to wait, a year and a half, 2 years to have an answer to whether or not their complaint, whether the issues raised are validated or not by our investigation. And that's just unacceptable. It's not, we're supposed to complete our investigations within 90 days. There may be, I think personally, as someone who's done this type of work in the past, that time frame is incredibly short. People think that's not a lot of time. So, if I can wave a magic wand, maybe I'd lengthen that a little bit. But certainly, there's no reason why we should be taking 2 years to complete an investigation or a year and a half. Certainly, when we're structured the way that we are. So, we have to do better. Right now, that really requires us having the additional support and manpower to be able to get through that backlog faster for the reasons that I mentioned. But, that just gives you some sense that 2019, 2018, number gives you some sense for what we're up against.
What is and you might have spoke to this and answered this question. I just want to clarify, at least from my own head, but what's the primary way to trigger a CCA investigation? Does it have to start with a complaint, whether it's anonymous or otherwise? Or does the CCA ever start investigations that are not based on a complaint directly?
Yeah, so we will always start an investigation even without a complaint if there's an officer involved shooting, for instance. So if an officer fires a shot at a citizen, we will go out to the scene immediately and investigate that incident. We will dispatch investigators there. The very first thing we do is to monitor the actual physical evidence gathering that takes place when we arrive. So we walk through the scene with internal investigations officers, with the other officers who are processing that scene. We are there to monitor that collection. At that point, we have the opportunity to speak with witnesses ourselves if anyone's present. We don't speak with the officers right away. We monitor the interviews that take place of the officers, though. So the officers are typically interviewed immediately by homicide investigators if there's a shooting. And so we will sit in on those interviews. And then once we have been at the scene, we will bring those officers back and do interviews ourselves with the officers, as well as with other citizens who were involved. And then we also will request all the paperwork, request the entire file from the police department's investigation, and begin to go through that information and evidence ourselves. So that will include the ballistics reports, the medical records. It will include, if there's a death, the coroner's report. So all these things, we have access to, and we will do a thorough look at ourselves. And that's done even without a complaint being filed. So every case like that, that's how we handle it. Also, if someone dies in police custody, but it wasn't a shooting, same deal. But generally speaking, aside from those kind of cases, it does take a citizen complaint to kind of get us going. And that's how we have traditionally operated, at least. That structure certainly is one that we are equipped to be able to handle, as I stated, certainly with additional support that we have requested.
Okay. I think I understand that. And I already know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask anyway, just for clarification purposes. So I'm living in Cincinnati. Officer stops me for whatever reason, pulls a taser on me, and I feel like they never had to do that. That won't automatically trigger a CCA investigation. I would have to submit a complaint. Is that correct?
That's correct. You have to complain either to the CCA or to CPD. So that's very important. I should have mentioned that too. If you file a complaint with the police department, we will get those complaints automatically. So that's another source for us to be able to investigate it. But it has to be filed somewhere. You can either file with CPD or CCA. And in fact, you can ask for a complaint form on the spot from that officer. Now, if the person who's complaining is being arrested, it maybe you may not be able to file in that moment. But assuming that you're not being arrested by the officer, if the encounter went in a direction you didn't like, you can ask for a complaint form right there, and the officer is supposed to provide that information to you. And if you filed a complaint with the officer, with the police department, we will get a copy of that same complaint and investigate it independently. If you file with us, same way, we will investigate it independently. Folks should also know though that when we file complaints with CCA, the police department also gets a copy of that complaint. And that's why I say that you have the ability, if you want, to file anonymously with us. But just be aware that once you do file, we do notify the police department so that they can also do an internal investigation themselves into what happened. But we certainly get information from them as well that allows us to investigate.
So complaint comes in and it comes to your office. One of your investigators is assigned it. The investigator starts to dig into it. As a part of the investigation, are the people that file the complaint ever asked to come in and testify or give face-to-face, information? And is that a part of the process as well?
So it can be. I will tell you that during the pandemic, we have not done a lot of face-to-face interviews with complainants. Mostly, for the sake of safety, but also just to ensure that we're able to still operate without, overloading our facilities in terms of just numbers of bodies in the office. But once the pandemic is past us, I expect we will be doing a much more face-to-face citizen complaints. And even before the pandemic, if someone wanted to come down to us and talk with in person, that we always facilitate that. We have interview rooms for that purpose. And it's just, as someone who's done these cases at DOJ or in similar cases, it's always better to do an in-person interview if you can. So I will be pushing my staff to always seek to do an in-person interview and to gather that in-person testimony, so to speak, from the complainant about the complaint. It just leads to a much better outcome and experience for everybody who's involved. And sometimes there are reasons why you can't do that, or sometimes the complainants may not want to come down in person. But we ought to always seek to do it that way. And now it's not going to mean that the complaint is going to be confronting the officer, but at least it's going to be a chance for the complainant to speak face to face with an investigator who can better address the situation and hear the actual concerns.
Since you've been in play, how long have you been the director?
So I've been director since September. So I think it's a little more than 6 months at this point.
6 months. Okay. So in that 6 months, and to your knowledge and experience, what's the percentage of frivolous complaints? Like, what's the percentage of people that file a complaint, you investigate, you realize it was really nothing there and really a waste of time? Like maybe somebody had a problem with the police and just wanted to kind of use the process in a way it really wasn't supposed to be. Or does that ever happen? And if so, what would you say that percentage is?
Yeah, so I think the word that I would use are that we certainly have a percentage of cases that at the end of the day are unfounded is one of the terms we use. So if a case is brought to us, for instance, if someone says I was stopped by the police and I was punched in the face by the officer during the course of the stop, if we determined throughout the course of our investigation that either the stop just didn't happen at all, or maybe the stop did happen, but you were just not punched in the face at all, there was no physical force used, nothing even approximated that, then we will say that allegation is an unfounded allegation. And that's one that we use, and we publish that data along with our other data for our findings. And we're going to have in our annual report that'll be coming out probably in May. The annual report's going to tell you how many unfounded cases we got in the last year and what those percentages are. So I don't want to start quoting numbers now and get it wrong. But we definitely do get a class of cases that fits that category. Now, there are all kind of reasons why a complaint may be unfounded. So that's why I don't want to use that word frivolous, because it could be, there are folks who perhaps are filing complaints, that have, or at least to me, it seems as though the person had an encounter with the police. Maybe they were impaired by alcohol or something like that when the encounter occurs, and then they file a complaint with the police right afterwards. And then we get it and we investigate it and say, well, nothing like this actually took place. So did that person intend to lie about what happened, or did they just get it wrong because they were inebriated? I mean, I think there are all kind of factors that can kind of go into whether or not something is founded. But certainly there are classes of complaints we get where at the end of the day, there's no basis in fact for what the person is alleging. And that is a determination that we ultimately make. And when that occurs, we're not shy about saying, hey, this is a case where the officer didn't do anything wrong here.
No, you're right. That's a much way of putting it. That's just my lack of experience speaking right there. But you're right. That's a much better way, and I think a much more fair and accurate way, generally speaking, to classify it. So,
yeah, and I would just say too that I think that there probably are some cases that fit what you're talking about, where really it really is just the person not is essentially just lying, where there's no reason for why they should have misreported it to us. But those cases, at times it can be hard to kind of get at the motive for why someone filed a complaint. Motive's hard to get at in any case you investigate, but we always tell people when they file with us, though, that at the end of the day, you have to be presenting information that you believe is truthful and accurate and fair. If you are filing a false complaint with us, then they should be aware that is a crime. And so you can't give false information to us about what happened with you that you know to be false. In the same way, someone who comes in and talks to us, whether you're a citizen or whether you're an officer, can't lie to us during the course of an interview. That's also a criminal offense to lie, during the course of an official interview and investigation. So we always try to be clear about those things.
Are officers legally required to speak with you during an investigation, or can they just blow it off? Like, hey, I don't want to talk with CCA.
No, so the officers have to speak with us. I mean, it's a condition of their employment as city employees and officers. There's a whole body of law called Garrity, where essentially it says that because of what we do at CCA are administrative interviews, where at the end of the day, the worst thing that happens is the officer is disciplined at the workplace. It's an administrative process. It's not a criminal process. So I can't prosecute an officer. I can't file criminal charges against an officer. But because it's purely administrative and because there's no criminal liability, they have to give us information, but the information that they give us can't be used against them in any criminal case afterwards. So that's kind of the bargain, is that you have to answer our questions. You have to come down and talk with us. But if for whatever the reason, if something that you were to say actually what was problematic in a criminal sense, then that cannot be used against you criminally, because you're being compelled to testify. Because you can't. It goes back to constitutional rights against being compelled to testify against yourself. So it gets very technical, but to answer your question, they have to come down. They have to speak with us. It's a condition of being officers, and it's a powerful tool that we have.
So when the officers come in to speak with you, do they come in with legal representation, or are they just by themselves? Do they have an option?
So it really is up. It really is up to the officer. The officer can bring an attorney. The officer can bring a representative from the FOP. The officer can come down by his or herself. So it really is up to that officer's discretion.
You mentioned FOP. It begs the question: what's CCA's relationship like with the FOP? That's the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yeah, I think that might be a question you should probably direct the FOP president. The FOP, but I think we are, as is the case with any investigation that we handle, we're always understanding of the need for folks, whether you are an attorney or representative, to represent the interest of your client or of the person who is a part of the union, if you're a rep. And so, we want to respect that. We want to respect those rights that people have to be represented. And we always do try to do that and try to accommodate that. Obviously, like I said, we don't see eye to eye on everything when it comes to police CCA relations, and it unfolds on a case by case basis. But at least for our part, we try to create an environment where you can come in, you can be a part of the interview, you can represent your clients the way that you think you need to. But obviously, we have to respect. And everyone in that room has to respect our right to do our investigations and our right to ask questions that might be tough questions. And we certainly set those expectations that, we certainly are not going to shy away from asking tough questions. We're not going to shy away from doing our jobs. And we're not going to shy away from calling it like we see it at the end of the day. And if we have to disagree, we'll just have to disagree. But we can all do so respectfully.
So complaint comes in, investigation starts. I'm sure the investigators do their due diligence. They get their information. They present it to the board. The board will decide whether the complaint is founded or unfounded, and then make recommendations as to what should happen to the officer in terms of discipline. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's approximately it. I mean, we essentially we make the findings and recommendations start with the director. So I will issue the findings and recommendations, and then the board votes whether to agree or disagree with those. And so the board has an opportunity to vote, right? And so if the board does not like my findings, then the board can issue its own findings. At the end of the day, what generally happens is if there's a disagreement between the board and the director, both sets of findings will go up to the city manager for a decision, or both sets of recommendations. So the board doesn't have to agree with me, and at times they have not. It is rare, if you look back at the numbers in history, that they tend to agree. But where they don't, they have the right to speak their piece and to issue their findings as they see fit, and also to issue recommendations as they see fit as well. If they want to add to ours, if they want to disagree with ours, and then those go up to the city manager for the ultimate determination.
How many board members? And then I'm curious, what's the racial makeup of the board? What's their profile? Who are these people?
Yeah, so the board has 7 members, and that's the number that's required under our statute, Article 28. And it's quite a diverse board. And I'm not going to get I don't want to give you the percentages, but it's fairly diverse. There certainly is more than one member who's African American, and we also have some Caucasian members as well, and some members from the Hispanic community. So it's quite a diverse board, and from a cross section of our community here, and we very much enjoy working with them. And the board is not something that I don't appoint the members of the board. Those get appointed by the mayor, and they serve for 2-year terms after receiving those appointments.
Do you see any similarities? Are there any patterns in the types of complaints that you're currently getting in the city of Cincinnati? And what are the types of complaints that you typically see so far?
Yeah, we see there are a couple of core allegations that we investigate, and we see complaints in all those areas. So the biggest, I don't say the biggest in terms of numbers, but perhaps the most serious allegation we get that is not a shooting, that is not a death in custody, is our excessive force. And so that essentially is when an officer has used force that is an unreasonable amount of force. So if you're using force and you're not supposed to use any force at all, then that's excessive force. If you're allowed to use force, but you're using more force than what is reasonable, then that's excessive force. So there are a variety of ways in which you can use excessive force, and there are police policies on this, as well as a whole body of law. If folks bring us complaints that fit in that category, then that's how we classify it, and we see a lot of complaints there. We also see a lot of complaints for improper searches, for improper entries into apartments, into homes at times. When that happens, we see complaints for improper car stops or improper pedestrian stops. If you're just walking and you're stopped by police, or if you're driving, you're stopped by police. We see complaints for the improper pointing of firearms by police officers. And we see complaints for discrimination, which includes racial profiling and other forms of discrimination. So those are some of the key things that we see. A lot of these trends will be set out in our annual report. So again, I don't want to misquote the numbers here, but I do think that we have seen a number of complaints that, at least to me, appear to be driven by car stops, by traffic stops. That tends to be a dominant cause for complaints that we see, certainly. And then a number of the complaints that we see are also based around discourtesy, and which is really just when an officer adopts a tone that is uncivil or uses language that is coarse or profane. Those things are discourteous, and those things are not permitted by police policy. Police policy says you have to be courteous, be respectful. You can't use profanity, with limited exceptions when dealing with citizens. And people complain about that as well, and that we see a lot of complaints about that. Frankly, a lot of those complaints we don't handle in-house. We refer to the police unless they're accompanied by another allegation like excessive force. But a key driver of the complaints does seem to be those traffic stops, as well as acts of discourtesy that are being complained about.
Okay. And who is complaining? Do you guys ask or keep racial demographics on who is actually making these complaints in the city of Cincinnati? Is it
Yes,
Black
we do.
Cincinnatians, white, or?
Yeah, I think, without looking at the numbers again, most of our complainants are Black. We do have complainants that are white, but most of them are Black, and we do keep that information, and we release that in our annual report as well, on the stats, but also on our patterns.
Well, Gabe, listen, I really appreciate your time. I'll give you the last word. If there's anything you want to share with the audience before we end the conversation, I really appreciate your time. Again, I know Sister Iris does her thing, and she can get into the details with far more expertise than I can. I want to do a general overshot for the audience so we understood, what is CCA, how it works, what you need generally, and the work that you do.
Yeah, first of all, just thank you for having me on. It's incredibly important that people understand that CCA exists and that they know who we are and that they know that we're here. I'm always amazed at the number of people from a cross section of our community who just have no idea what we do. And it's important because there may come a time that you have an issue where you feel like you were mistreated and you feel like things didn't happen the way they should have been with the police officer. And there's a place where you can bring that. You don't have to just sit with that. You don't have to just stew with that. There's a way for you to bring that information to us to get a full, fair, vigorous investigation. And at the end of the day, we will publish a report. We'll speak the truth. We'll issue findings and recommendations about what happened. And if we think there's been misconduct that has occurred, then we certainly, like I stated, can seek to give you a voice within the halls of city government to have that issue addressed. And so people ought to know that we exist, and that's very important for folks to be aware of. And this work is, in general, is critically important. We're at a moment in our history, in our community, in our country, when people are crying out for a greater measure of justice, of accountability, of transparency, and people deserve a government that reflects those things and that serves them. And at the core, that really what we seek to promote. And we think communities are more just and are safer when there is that accountability, when there is that trust between police and community, and when there is that openness and understanding, and we promote that with our investigations and seek to facilitate that at the end of the day. So I thank you for having me. And if folks want to get involved in this work, you can volunteer to help us get the word out. You can volunteer to, also at some point to help us to mediate some of these cases if you have those skills. So be looking out for opportunities to do that. And also, if you want to get involved with work and policing more generally, and work with law enforcement and policing reform more generally, there are organizations out there locally for that. We have the local the Black United Front, Leaders of the Free World. We have the OJPC, Ohio Justice and Policy Center, NAACP. I mean, we have just wonderful local institutions. We have the Urban League, wonderful institutions here that are doing critical work, and there are a number of others that I'm not naming right now. But there are ways to get involved, to get in the game, and I hope people do that and take these issues very, very seriously. Certainly in light of what we're seeing across our country today.
Gabe, thanks for your time, brother. I'll catch up with you, man.
Thank you.
Yep. It's Gabe Davis, everybody, director of CCA. And again, I've given you what my thoughts were in terms of my approach with the interview this morning, because I already know there's a lot of folks out there who don't even know about CCA, and they probably need to. They've had some interactions. So for me, I'm like, hey, if we're going to build it, let's make sure we use it, make sure it's working for us. But I thought it was a good conversation, a lot of information. It might have been redundant for a lot of folks out there, hopefully not too redundant. But I feel this will touch somebody who needs to hear it this morning, just so we understand, as we're having this national conversation about what's happened in Minneapolis. If you live in the city of Cincinnati, you should know, what you have in place for you if you have a situation. And then also, as we get ready for city council, as we get ready for mayor, we need to have as much information, because I would imagine that a lot of people in the community care about CCA. A lot of Black people care about CCA. We should know what their needs are. What's that dollar amount? What's that ask? You know what I'm saying? We should know all of that. We should know all of that. I see I was getting called here. I got to make I got a hard stop here. So I got to get off real quick, but we should know this information so we can hold them accountable. So we know what to ask the next mayor, the next city council person. So I really appreciate you. I since Iris caller, I got to make a quick move. But I'll be back on tomorrow. You already know it, bright and early, and we'll chop it up again. Okay. Have an excellent rest of your day, family. Shout out to my guest, Charlie Wimburn, Hamilton County Treasurer, and his 10-point plan for Hamilton County. Also, Gabe Davis, Director of CCA. I appreciate you as well. If you want to throw support our way, of course, you got a Cashapp as we build out our media platform. We're just getting started with it. I ain't going nowhere. This is exactly what we need. Why not? Why can't we have more voices that represent us in Cincinnati and beyond? So If you want to throw some support our way, I appreciate you in advance. And I got to make a move, family. Have an excellent rest of your day. I'll leave you with our motto. Say it with me, fam. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. So stay focused and stay winning, and we'll talk real soon. I'm Nate Ivy, and I'm out.